A 3-hour debate ended with Dayton City Commissioners approving a pilot project for a new controversial crime-fighting system. News Center 7's Mike Campbell spent the day digging into how the system is expected to work during the test run.
Dayton police say the type of situations where this whole system could really come in handy are like about a year ago. Here at the RTA hub downtown, there was a shooting on a bus, and within minutes, police were looking at RTA's cameras and then tracking other cameras around downtown. They caught up with a suspected shooter within minutes. Dayton police took 2 teens into custody after the shooting. It's the kind of critical incident that police believe FUSUS will make a difference in. They can put every camera belonging to any business or organization that opts into the program in the FUSUS Real-Time Crime Center. Police showed commissioners how it works.
Setting up FUSUS is fast, requires minimal hardware, and has no activation fees.
Feeds from any source in the program go into the FUSUS core and are sent to officers in the field. Anything from missing children or adults to shooting threats. But the organization with the camera controls how much police can see and when they can see it.
For example, schools may choose to limit video sharing to emergency situations.
Opponents of the plan worry about the safeguards not being adequate and potential adverse impacts on communities of color.
Any 911 call might trigger a police response. We are setting the stage for disproportionate police presence, not just in certain neighborhoods, but all throughout this city.
We spotted hundreds of exterior cameras in downtown that could become part of the system for the pilot project. The police chief said it should make officer response more effective.
It makes you situationally aware that when you're responding to something, you know what you're walking into.
Anything we as a community can do to improve safety, that's a high priority.
Sandy Gudorf is the president of the Downtown Dayton Partnership. She said there's been almost $3 billion of investment here in recent years. She believes anything that improves safety will keep that momentum rolling.
It's a key factor when people are deciding whether they want to locate here, whether they want to expand here.
There are hundreds of buses all over downtown Dayton that, if the managers and owners of businesses and organizations agree to be part of the system, could be included in this pilot project that will run from now through June 30th to test its effectiveness. In downtown Dayton, Mike Campbell, News Center 7.